Hello, my name's Andrew, and today we're doing a first impression review of the mukishoes PANTUFA slipper. Let's check it out. Up front, you've got a wide toe box. It's a little more squared off, which I like, which is pretty typical for mukishoes. I would say in terms of width, it's kind of like medium width in terms of the sole shape, but then because of the wool felted upper, it's very stretchy, and also mukishoes has a very thin sole that has a lot of flex to it, so you get some extra room there as well. So I would say actually in terms of width, they're more like a standard wide. If you're extra wide, they may not work for you. You might wanna size up, that might potentially work, but they should work for most foot shapes and widths other than that. In terms of the wool felt upper, it's really, really breathable. Not only is it wool felt, but they've done something interesting here. You can kind of feel that it has like a little bit of a bumpy texture. And it seems to me that this has actually increased breathability because these are the most breathable barefoot slippers that I've tried so far. And they also have a stitched sole all the way around, which is really nice for durability. Obviously, you're not gonna be going on any hikes with these. You know, they're just a good soft option for in the house. And they have a ton of really nice flexibility, and there's just nothing like rubbing or feeling tight anywhere. They do have a little bit of a stretchy portion around the back, elastic, and it's got some nice flex to it, so it doesn't rub on your ankle or anything, but what it does do is kind of like seal in the warmth here, and you get plenty of breathability from the wool. But for a lower cut slipper, I feel like that's important because sometimes when it's more open, especially if you're wearing them barefoot, you can get some drafts, you know, coming in there. So I really like that. In the back, they've got their little mukishoes tag, and they've reused this tag or the strap on the heel. This is good for durability, but also just it's kind of cool when brands will just take scraps from other shoes they made and then put them into their new shoes. In terms of how they feel inside, it's wool lined all the way around, so it's really warm, really breathable. You can feel just a little bit of texture from wool when you first put it on versus something like cotton, which is just like smooth straight out of the box. But what I found with these is they feel really nice wearing barefoot, and once your feet build up just a little bit of humidity, you kind of slide over the wool fabric a little bit more, and then yeah, it feels just as soft as cotton, but even more breathable and definitely warmer. I live in a house that has really cool floorboards, so it's really nice to have that extra layer of wool insulation on the bottom. And you could put, if you wanted to warm them up, you could put like a wool felt insole. Mukishoes actually sell some. They have a thicker one that's like 5 millimeters. This is a thinner one. I guess depending on your volume of your foot, it might change what you can fit in there, whether you want something thinner or thicker. But overall, there's lots of ways to warm them up, and you can also use pair of Injinji merino wool toe socks, which I'll do a lot of times if it's super cold on the floor, and also just because my toes are a little bit closer together, and having socks just kind of helps spread them out and get some breathability in between there so that your toes aren't sweating. One other thing that's nice about wool is that it's antimicrobial, so if you do decide to wear them barefoot, they actually still smell really nice. And if you want to clean them out, you know, from use to use, you can just kind of like put them out in the sun, you know, for 15 minutes or so, and it'll help kill off some of that bacteria. But in terms of the sole, it's 3.5 millimeters. So mukishoes has the best hands down ground feel and flexibility of any brand. Maybe on Flex, Vibram 5 Fingers could give them a little competition, you know, because they've got the separate toes in there, but definitely in terms of ground feel, there's no sole that's gonna give you more of a feeling, and especially for indoor use, that works really well because you don't need something super thick and protective. But mukishoes rubber, it grips very well, and you apply some pressure to it, so if you have like an older parent or grandparent and they need something you know, that's a little more minimal, less clunky, but that also has a really good slip resistant sole, this would be a good option. In terms of the tread pattern, it's got these rounded lugs on the bottom, which are nice. They're very thin, you know, so they don't really affect ground feel at all. But they also kind of resist wear a bit more, you know, because there's no sharp angles, so they're just smooth and they kind of roll over rough surfaces. I do like that they've got a rubber sole on it because it means that you can take it out to like get the mail, kind of like the Vivo Barefoot Ababa, which we'll talk about. But overall, I think these are my favorite low cut barefoot slippers for winter. Another good barefoot slipper option is the Kingdom of Wow wool bamboo slipper. And these, unlike mukishoes, don't have a rubber sole, so they're even more flexible. They're kind of a chunky knit, looks like a knit blanket, which I think is really cool. They've got this one, which is the mid cut. They also have a lower one. And in terms of the toe box, it could be extra wide, but it does just get a little bit tapered towards the tip. So if you're between sizes, then I definitely recommend going up just to give yourself a little more space at the front. But yeah, very stretchy, very soft. It has a little bit thicker weave than mukishoes, but when it stretches, you can see that there's some nice air holes in there, so there's some really good breathability for this one. On the inside, I would say it feels really smooth as well. Both wool and bamboo can feel really soft, especially, like I said, once you build up just a little bit of moisture. And it's also got a stitched sole for durability, but the sole is made out of leather, so it's really, really soft. And the one nice thing about these versus a slipper with a rubber sole is that they're very quiet. Like, I'm staying at my mom's house right now while I'm working on my van build, and we have like different sleep schedules, so I'll wake up way earlier than her, and we have this old creaky house, so it's like really important for me to have a soft slipper, you know, especially first thing in the morning, because if you have rubber, you do get a little bit of pat, you know, even if it's something thin like mukishoes. So I definitely appreciate the leather feel, and if you're trying to be ninja, then that's something to consider. Also, this is important to note for both slippers, but you can see with any kind of wool loose knit like this, you're just gonna have little fibers, little hairs here. So when you get the Kingdom of WoW slippers or mukishoes or any other wool slipper or wool upper barefoot type shoe, just like don't worry if there are little fuzzies here, because that's just what wool does. And as long as you're not like taking them out hiking, you know, where you're gonna have things like ripping off the fibers, then it's okay for a little bit of shedding to happen. Like I said, the Vivo Barefoot Ababa is another really good option if you want a rubber sole. It's got a wide toe box, lots of room horizontally speaking. It's a little bit lower volume here, although leather is quite stretchy over time, and as you wear them, it'll kind of just expand to whatever shape your foot is. But I like the stretch here, makes it easy to slip on. You can't quite slip it on without holding it, but if you just put a finger here in the back, it's really easy to slip on. The leather feels soft. It's a bit water resistant on the outside if you were to like go get the mail and it was just a little bit wet, which is nice. And then in the inside, it has more of a suede type feel to it, so very soft, and soft leather lining on the bottom as well. And they've got this rubber tab in the back for durability and just making it a little easier for you to slip your heel in. It's got a good lock, especially you can see it gets more tapered towards the back, so you're not slipping up and down. But that's actually one other thing that I wanted to mention about mukishoes. They do this with a lot of their shoes, but they've got a really nice taper as well. So kind of same concept, just different way of doing it. But in terms of the sole, it's 4mm. So again, some really good flexibility. Mukishoes is slightly better, but both of them are really excellent, and you can't go wrong with the tread on either, because they both got a lot of good grip and some decent protection. If you want something with separate toes, this is the Vibram 5 Fingers KSO Eco Wool. It's got a wide toe box, but then because of the separate toes, it actually gets extra wide, so there's a lot of space in here. I would say it runs a little bit long, so you might want to size down, and usually that's the case with most Vibram 5 Fingers shoes, because they're meant to fit more like a glove on your foot. This got a wool blend upper, so again, really, really soft. You can wear it barefoot if you want, and they're fairly easy to wash, which is nice. It's a bit closer weave, and because it has some synthetic in there, it's a little bit stronger than the other two options that we looked at. Reinforcement in the back, and then it's got this really nice pull tab with Velcro on the tip, so it's very easy to just like put this down when you're not using it, and then it's got a cinch, but you can slide in and out of it fairly easily. And then for the sole, it is a 3mm sole. It's really flexible. This is one that gives mukishoes a run for their money, like I said, especially because of the separate toes. You know, you just get so much more flexibility there. It's a thin sole, but it's also Vibram, so there's some really good grip when you open it up. It's good for road running. It's good for a little bit of trail running, as long as it's not too steep and slippery. If it's wet, you know, this isn't the shoe to wear, because it's just gonna let that moisture come straight through, but also works as a really nice slipper for indoor use, you know, because it's got the cozy upper, it's got a very grippy sole, another good option for anyone that needs a non-slip option. So yeah, that's my first impression of you, the mukishoes, PANTUFA, and friends, and I'll keep you guys updated in the long-term review. But if you'd like to support the channel, you can shop with the referral links down below. Browse and filter more products with the shoe finder tool at my website, barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about the mukishoes, PANTUFA, or about barefoot shoes in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.